I would say you're live.
Okay, I didn't see anything that says we're live yet.
Yeah, I think we're live, Rocco.
Is there like a delay?
There might be a little delay.
Let's
You
find
can't
out.
see it.
No,
Ladies and gentlemen.
nothing's live.
Oh, we got to be live. Hit it again. Hit it again.
I am hitting it multiple times.
We're live.
There we go.
Jeez, he doubts me. This is the first ever live stream done at the Boogie Street Studio. The very first.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about that? Like the thing that I said I would never do was do a live stream.
I mean, listen, man. I think this is a fantastic idea.
So
and you did the technology pretty well.
Well, thank you. For an old guy, I kind of figured this shit out with a 10-year-old laptop, and and
that's
not
10 years old.
That's an old MacBook. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And it's supposedly it has enough hardware. We're going to continue to work on shit.
Love it.
But so what are we doing here? So Rocco and I have done a multitude of podcasts on the Eric McKenna Project. Rocco's been my guest so many times. We did radio in Beaver County with the wonderful Matt Durzik and the whole crew down at Beaver County Radio. Had an absolute blast. Went from talking about entrepreneurship and then moved that into just life and talking about current events and all kinds of nonsensical stuff.
Yeah.
And we decided we looked at it and said, hey, we can do this same sort of thing with maybe a little more freedom.
Yeah.
Right? And if Eric kind of grew up and grew big boy pants and decided to learn how to live stream. So I got a bunch of young kids who really, and I mean kids, really successful folks in their 20s, early 30s, explain the system to me. And hey, look what I did. I see you. We're here.
Yeah,
we're doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
So the idea, friends, is we're going to take the concept of how we see it and just on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock, we're going to go for 45 minutes to an hour or just whenever we feel like it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we can end up doing this on a participatory basis. Respond. And maybe we'll get a little producer in here to shove us the questions and all this stuff. But
that'd be kind of cool to just have someone else here sitting here doing stuff for us.
So is it strange being in the studio, like we have very little lights on. There's only 2 camera angles. There's no lava lamps going on.
It's definitely a lot cooler in here because those lava lamps definitely make me sweat because they're super hot. But it's different. It's a different feel, definitely.
Yeah.
Like totally fine, but it's different. It feels different.
Being live is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's when we were talking. We started the radio show. I had done a little bit of live radio years ago, and I just told Rocco it's a different kind of thing.
Oh yeah,
being
very
live.
Different.
You get used to it, of course.
Yeah, can't swear live, man.
No,
hard.
No.
I did very well though.
You did. He was on his best behavior. He had one slip up, which I think kind of went unnoticed by a lot of people. There was a couple calls.
Yeah,
and then I said a word that was somewhat maybe kind of like a swear word.
Yeah, what did you say? The piss?
Yeah. I said like I took the piss out of him or something. Like I don't know.
And I said shit.
Yeah. But you kind of slurred at that. You kind of
I was kind of on a rant and I just kind of slid in there and I just kind of kept going with it and just
the entrepreneur life for the first 6 months, and then we turned it into how we see it. And the thing that we did was we didn't take it from we didn't try to have a bitch session.
No, not at all.
There's enough. You want to go hardcore politics. I don't give a shit what flavor you're on. You can find it anywhere.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. But the idea here is that really like 2 regular Joes, regular citizens.
Yep, that's us.
Because we have the same take, very similar takes to everyone else. In our circle. And, so why not just having a different, maybe a layman's take on shit? And it just grew. And
here we are.
Yeah, but I have you need to start talking here. So before we get started, I want to congratulate you on an unbelievable black tie event with Cozza Law this weekend.
Thank you, man.
It was if you haven't seen it on social media, take a look at the pictures there. But talk to me about the idea of doing the black tie event, and also talk to me about the foundation, which was kind of like the launch of the foundation at the event, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So the event was actually Matt's idea. So we were thinking about marketing events for the year coming into the year, and he had said at his old firm they did this black tie event, but he wanted to kind of take it in a different direction. So we kind of just said, I'm a why not type person. So in the beginning of the year, we said, let's just none of us have ever planned an event like this before, never planned a gala, never planned a black tie event, so Matt, Mia, and I said, let's do it, we'll figure it out. And as we were planning it, we're like, well, we should, we do a lot of stuff with charities. We said, why don't we partner with a nonprofit? Maybe we can partner with a different one every year. but I've always wanted to have our own, really, because I love working with kids. And so this was kind of the catalyst that said, well, no, let's just start our own now. Now we have a reason to do it, right? We're having this event. We can pair it with our own foundation and use the event to really launch the foundation. So the event was called Toast of the Town. It was a black tie event we had Saturday at Hotel Monaco, and it was really the unveiling of the CLG Foundation, which is really a foundation we created to empower disadvantaged youth from lower income areas through entrepreneurship, but going into schools, teaching them about entrepreneurship, showing them there's different paths in life to success.
Like junior achievement, wasn't that?
Yeah,
is that still around?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and that's actually, I spoke to one of the people that were at the event. She's the president of the Junior Achievement of Western PA. She's in a Vistage group that I'm in, and we're meeting in 2 weeks to kind of discuss how we can work together potentially.
Right.
But there's that. But then we're also going to do a pitch competition. That's what excites me, kind of like a Shark Tank in the spring for high school kids to pitch their business idea. Because a lot of these kids they're so smart. They have great ideas. They don't have the financial means or the connections or the expertise to get it off the ground. So we figured we can bring kids in, have them pitch these ideas, right? Mm-hmm. And then winner will get an investment or a donation from the foundation to help them get the business off the ground, plus advisory services from us as a law firm, some of our other partners that are within the foundation as well, to really help these kids launch a business. Really want to do it to just inspire kids and show them there are different ways to be successful in life. You don't have to follow the traditional path. We have so many clients in our firm that have taken the non-traditional path to success, didn't go to college, maybe even dropped out of high school. I'm not saying that's what we're trying to do, but showing kids there's other ways to be successful and giving them the tools to do that. And that's really, it excites me. It's something I've always wanted to do. And this was, it was a nerve-wracking week last week leading up to this, because we had no idea what to expect, right? I mean, you've two lawyers and Mia, who runs the show, trying to put this event together. And I mean, she did everything. She gets all the credit. I mean, she executed it flawlessly.
Of course.
I mean, but we had no idea. And, I mean, but it was a great time, man. Great turn. We had so many people want to be involved with the foundation. That's what I really took away from it. Like, I didn't realize how much of an impact this would have. And I think we're going to really make an impact with this foundation.
Well,
I apologize for being these allergies.
That's okay. Well, allergies are a bitch for everybody.
That's bullshit.
When I started this podcast, one of the things that everybody said I had to do was I had to have an agenda, or not an agenda, but I had to have like an idea, or I had to have like a mission, so to speak. I kind of bought into that. So one of the things I would craft out would be, I wanted to hear people's stories, but I wanted to have an entrepreneurial bent to it. Now we did that, and then everything else under the sun, including aliens, right? But the entrepreneurial thing is always fascinating to me. And when you get to dive into an entrepreneur's journey, you really get to dive in, and someone that wants to be transparent and open, that really wants to share, it's exciting. It's exciting. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yeah, the journey, I mean, it's a journey, put it that way. It is a
never-ending journey.
No, and I look back, and that's what was cool too on Saturday night, like when Matt and I got up and spoke, and it was, at a moment there, not that I got choked up, but it was kind of like I looked out at the crowd and I'm like, holy shit, like we did this in 3 years. And that was kind of really, because even when Matt said, 2 years ago, it was just the three of us standing up there, Mia, him, and I. And then now there's, 10 of us, and we're growing. And looked out in this crowd, and all these people came out to support us and support the firm and support what we're doing. And like that really meant a lot to me, and it really showed me, how far we've come, and it also showed me how far we have to go.
Really?
Yeah.
What do you mean? That second part of that statement?
Yeah, like we're not even close to being where we want to be yet. Like that was a moment where it's like, yeah, okay, we're on the map now, but we need to really leave a mark, and we haven't done that yet. In
talking with Matt, he shares the story that he came to interview with you, and the game plan was, to have a lot of fun, break all the rules, do law differently, be good to people, but we get 3-4 attorneys in here, we just rock it as hard as we can, just have a great time. What happened?
We always joked it was like every 3 to 6 months that number just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think because as an entrepreneur, right, like I'm leading the firm, so I'm out at the tip of the spear. So the firm's only going to go as far as I can see. So at that moment in time when I interviewed Matt, like that was my vision. It was like, okay, it was just me and Mia. I'm like, okay, well, we can get to 3 or 4. That shouldn't be hard to do. And that'll be a great firm, and we can be a boutique, and we can be successful. And then, but as we started growing, I kept seeing how different we were than other firms and what we were doing so differently that my perspective just kept getting wider and wider and wider. Now I look at it as like, why can't we be a global law firm?
Mm-hmm.
Other firms started with 2 people. Why can't we? Why not us?
For sure.
It's just we have to figure out the formula and execute the plan. And so that's what we're constantly making adjustments. And that's the challenging stage we're in right now through the entrepreneur journey. We're at that critical point, right? When you get to kind of 9 to 10 people, it's a critical juncture in a business. That's when I can't manage it all. So now it's training the next layer down to start managing down. So I can focus on moving forward. The next layer can focus on managing down and out. So it's kind of, we're in this inflection point where systems are breaking down. We have to rebuild things. We have to make things more efficient so we can kind of hit that next hockey stick growth, because that's where we are. Right? We're kind of in this upward trend and we're getting to that next level. But to get to that next one, we've got to rebuild systems. And that's the journey, man. It's tough.
Long-term goal, you do want to be an international firm. Ultimately, in the end, that's the idea.
There's no stopping. I mean, you'll have to bury me to stop me. Like, that's how I look. Like, I love it too much. Like, I love the practice of law. I love building things. I love the people I get to work with.
Yeah.
And I truly see the only thing that will stop us is us. Right. And I just I don't have any goals of retiring. I don't want to, say, I'm 70, I'm going to wrap up. Like, I just love it too much. I may change the way I practice and do things differently, but yeah, I mean, why can't we be an international firm?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we have a firm jet someday? That's with a big C on the tail. Like, we always joke, but like, why not? Like, why not? It's tax write-off.
I know, 100%. Okay, so we on the Eric McKenna Project podcast, the heavyweight show.
Yes,
this is something different here this evening. We sat down with your firm, and we had the first Cozza Lawcast, which was awesome. But one of the things we talked about on there was something that I really hits home for me, and that's the idea of personal philosophy. I want to mention that now because it does tie into like some of the current events and things that are happening in our world. That's pretty obvious for the past couple of weeks. But about your personal philosophy, did you think about actually constructing that, or it wasn't really on your consciousness, but you knew that there was something inside that was driving you? Did you have to take a moment and step back and say, hey, I got to really craft and make sure that things are in alignment for me? Because right now I think the world is operating. I really believe this, especially for those in the power. They're operating where so many folks are operating at a point of unalignment with their personal philosophy. Yeah, I think that is some of the dysfunction we see, where decisions being made and people doing things out of character, really out of character for their past. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I want to talk to you about like personal philosophy and how you apply it to your business. Well,
one is a great question. I look at it as you have to know who you are. Like, until you know who you are, you don't know what your philosophy is, right? So it took me a while. It took me into my 40s to really understand who I was as a man, as a business person, as an entrepreneur, and kind of know what matters and what doesn't matter. And once you figure that out, right, once you kind of have those dynamics figured out, then I just operate in alignment with that. Like, everything that's in alignment with that I do. If it's not, I don't do it. And it makes decision-making very simple. Once you understand what matters and what your philosophy is, decisions are easy to make, because you can easily spot if it's in alignment or not, right? Like, I know the firm, we're building a legacy. So I know what I want to do. I know how we operate. We operate with a certain level of service and integrity, right? We treat people well. We're kind human beings. We do great work. We provide excellent service. We take accountability. We don't bullshit people, right? So that makes decision-making very easy. Is it in alignment with these things? Okay, I'll do it. If it's not, I don't. And that's how, and it's really hard for people, because I think you have to dig into yourself. Most people don't do that work of really figuring out themselves. They're too outwardly focused, right? To really understand your personal philosophy, you have to be inwardly focused. You have to really dissect yourself. We talk about that, looking in the mirror, looking at all of your faults and flaws and understanding them and being okay with them and figuring out what truly matters. And it took me a while to get there. But once you do it, it changes everything like that, because it makes decisions so much easier to make. Yeah. That's what the firm, it just makes, I know, like, I don't get distracted now. Like I'm laser focused on where we're going because my philosophy is very clear to me.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm just marching forward. That's it.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think that if you asked 100 people, I don't think you would get 90, or excuse me, I don't think you get 5 of them if they understand or they thought about what their personal philosophy is. I don't mean that as a slag on anybody or any group. I'm just saying I don't think that it's at the forefront of the way we operate today.
No, because you look at it from an entrepreneur's perspective, right? The 1% is the 1%. Those are the people that actually have to figure out that philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not trying to build something, you may never have to have those discussions with yourself because you're operating under someone else's philosophy, right? If you work for a company, you're following that company's philosophy. We're like me, like my name's on the wall.
Right.
My philosophy is what's on that wall. So I need to make sure I know what it is. Everything I do is in alignment with it. And I'm articulating it to my people and to the people in my circle that this is my philosophy and this is why we operate the way we do. And there are still gaps, right? I don't always articulate the best way. There are a lot of times people are like, what the fuck is he doing?
Right.
Like they don't know why I'm doing certain things because sometimes I get it in my own way by thinking, well, you should just know this. And I don't realize that they haven't done the work I've done. So I have to articulate it better to why I'm doing something. Mm-hmm. And that's just part of the philosophy journey, I think.
Do you see so many illogical things today in society, whether it's politics or whether it's just, I don't know, the way we divide ourselves up into groups, and maybe the jumping to the extremes of thought and so forth. I think people are out of congruence. I think they're out of alignment. And far be it from me to say I know what everybody's alignment is. I'm just saying it makes so much out there makes so little sense that there can't be that many quote unquote illogical people on a day in, day out basis.
No. Well, I do think there's a lot of people out there that, take these outlandish stances to give themselves some sort of significance because they may, and I've had these discussions with people, right? When you really dissect a person's philosophy and opinions, a lot of times we're all kind of in alignment, but sometimes people like to say things so outlandish to give them, because they feel like, hey, if I'm in agreement with everybody, I'm not significant. Mm-hmm. I'm just part of the pack. Mm-hmm. But if I say something off the wall, be it my belief or not, it'll give me significance. And that's a sad thing that people have to feel that way. They have to do those things to feel significant, right? Yeah. But that's a lot of times what I see. You see these people that are taking these crazy things, but they can't articulate why they're taking it or what the stance even means.
Exactly right.
They're just taking it to give themselves a little bit of significance. And that's wrong. Like, understand why you're taking it. And if it truly is your belief, that's fine. You're entitled to it. But don't do it just to find significance. You can find significance in other ways. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it. That's how I view it. I think we're crazy in this world right now.
So when you see, I believe we live in a cartoon, and I know that's comical to some people, but I am not kidding when I say that.
I get it,
man. Because there's so many things. There are so many decisions being made, whether they're political decisions, whether just social decisions being made, that if you were to tell me that even 10 years ago, as recent as 10 years ago, I would have told you you're out of your mind. There's no way. But it just gets more and more outlandish. Yeah. And ultimately we just become accepting to the outlandishness.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that a lot of these folks who buy into this stuff, I can't believe that's really in alignment with what they know is right and wrong.
But they may not even know that anymore.
Their own personal truth. I just can't believe that.
But here's the thing. Here, let me challenge you on that. 'Cause I look at, okay, I know my personal philosophy so well right now. Mm-hmm. I don't get distracted by these things anymore. I used to get way more distracted by politics because I didn't know all of my. But I've honed in so much of my own philosophy. This shit doesn't matter to me. Like, does it matter who's the president to me? No, I'll figure it out one way or the other. But I think people that don't understand their own personal beliefs, their personal philosophy, they're letting other people infiltrate their mentality and infiltrate their mind to tell them what that is without really dissecting it to figure out, is that my true belief?
Oh, it's easy.
Is that my true?
It's easier.
You don't have to think. You can just be told what to think. And it's like, kind of makes sense. This group of people that I kind of relate to believe that. I'm going to go with that.
Is that a byproduct of technology?
I think it's a byproduct of a lot of things. Yeah, I think technology is one. It makes it easier to access that information and to be part of a group, right? Think about before we had technology, right? You had to actually go out and meet people, talk to people to become part of a group.
Mhm.
Now you can just go and jump in a Facebook group, say, hey, I hate Pepsi. There's a group for that. Cool. I'm going to join this group. These are all people I love. They may never have drank Coke in their life, but all of a sudden they hate Pepsi and love Coke because this group of people, they feel safe and secure in that group. And they just take on that belief system. That's what's happening, in my opinion. And it's a bad way to run the world. Original thought has left the building.
It's a bad way to run one's own life. It's just insane.
Yes. Original thinking, like we've said a million times, is a lost art.
What about like calculated indifference, right? And I don't mean the indifference that is intentionally there to cause harm to people, because that really wouldn't be indifference. That would be purposeful. But the indifference of realizing that if I don't have a valid or an educated opinion on something, or if something really has no consequence in my life, it really isn't worth the emotional or the intellectual energy to deal with it. And you're certainly being kinder to everyone else by not putting an opinion out there that's not really founded in anything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. People should look to having indifference a lot more. Because I think people have opinions because they feel like they have to have an opinion. Agreed. There are so many things in this world that I don't have the mental capacity to understand, let alone care about enough to dissect further. Sorry, I'm just, that may sound harsh and insensitive, but there are things like climate change. I don't know enough about it to really have an opinion one way or the other. Is it something? Sure. Do I know what it's going to do? No. Am I going to spend hours upon hours trying to figure it out? No, I'm not. Like, I'm just being honest with myself.
Right.
So I don't have to have an opinion on it, right?
So why is that interesting? Let's dive into that for a second. So why is it now somewhat unacceptable for most people not to have an opinion on most things?
Because the news tells you what side has what opinion, and if you don't fit into one of the sides, you are an outcast. That's how I think people feel. You have to pick a team, and the team has a certain position, and if you don't take that position, then you're automatically. We can't believe
you don't have a home,
right? Like, we can't believe that some people just don't have an opinion. We think because everybody's so opinionated.
When did that become
social media
bad?
Because but here's the thing: social media has made it so everybody can have an opinion. So now we assume you don't have an opinion, and the assumption also becomes, if you don't agree with my opinion, you hold the opposite opinion. When in reality, you may not hold an opinion. There are many things I have no opinion on.
Which is the most unsophisticated way to maneuver your day imaginable.
Right. It makes things so difficult.
I mean, we got to be better than that.
Yeah. Look, when you here's what I would tell people. If you
I don't have an opinion because I don't care.
Yeah. Once you realize it's okay not to have an opinion and we can have differences, life gets so easy. I don't have to agree with you. I don't hate you. I don't have to not like you. You don't have to have an opinion. I don't have to have an opinion. Once you get okay with that, life gets real easy. Then you only focus on what you care about.
Don't you find it funny that we have all this increased communication technology with the ability for humans to really connect with each other since 96, since the invention or the proliferation of the internet, the proliferation of the internet, 96, 97, 95, whatever. And certainly with MySpace and, of course, Facebook and social media, all kinds of ways to connect. And instead of having more substantive communication, it's now we've used that technology basically to fight with each other.
Yeah.
Because there's only two teams. Sometimes they line up, every issue's got two.
Right.
Did you know that according to the world we live in, Rocco, every issue only has two answers? Right. Everything under the sun. Right. That's the world we're living in now.
Yeah.
There's only two answers to everything.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I went to law school, and the answer was always, it depends. Like, there was never an answer. Like, I was trained for 3 years that there's never an answer. It depends on every little fact. So there's never two sides.
We can't be teaching the youth this. It's oversimplified way of maneuvering your life. And
and the problem is the rate of information coming at us every day.
Right.
And I think
are we giving up?
Well, I heard a statistic. I think it was last week, and they were saying the amount of information that we perceive and get today in a day is what people would get in a 10-year period 50 years ago.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, think about how mentally distraught that can make a person.
But we're doing it to ourselves.
Correct, we are. But that's why people aren't forming these original thoughts, because they don't have the time to think, because they're constantly intaking and processing information. They're not giving
ingesting too much.
You're ingesting too much. I literally have to schedule time to think. Like, sometimes I'll just sit in my office and just think, because I need to give myself time away from distractions just to process something. I have to actually make myself do that, because I'm guilty of it. There's information coming at me. I have 3 monitors. I have a phone. I have people walking in my office all the time. My brain is constantly like almost playing defense. Like, I got to block people off to just finish what I'm doing. But I have to sometimes stop and make myself actually think for 10 minutes.
But it's almost like we're sacrificing often a part of our own philosophy, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down the metaphysical and the religious end of it, but what we know to be our core beliefs, what's right or wrong, we sacrifice that a lot out of ease or expediency or the guttural feeling that we have only 2 decisions to pick from. We only have 2 answers to pick from, and we have to choose the quote unquote right one. Meanwhile, the answer might be 100 different shades of both.
Yeah. But
you got to have the courage, and maybe you need to take that extra breath for a second.
Yeah.
If it isn't courage, maybe it's just we need to realign how we maneuver and just take that extra second and say, hey, I'm not in congruence with any of this, and I really don't need to have it in my life.
But that's uncomfortable for people, and people seek comfort.
That should be incredibly comfortable. Why is that uncomfortable?
Because it's not. Because think about it. Like you just said, there's teams, right? So if you're if you don't pick one of those sides, it gets uncomfortable, right? Where do you belong? Where do you fit?
I don't want in the game.
Well, that's you, but you're an exception to the rule. Like, let's talk about basic society, right? Most people want to fit in somewhere. So to tell them, take a step back and think, there's more than 2 sides. Well, finding that 3rd, 4th, and 5th path is very uncomfortable, because it doesn't fit the narratives, doesn't fit the 2 narratives. And now where do I fit in? What if I do this thing you call thinking and realize, I don't agree with either of these people. Where do I belong? Not belonging is uncomfortable for people. That's where I think the problem lies.
Yeah, but before the web, there was plenty of, not belonging. We all kind of not belong. I mean, we learned valuable lessons as a child, right? Learning to fit in. Yeah, learning to not get picked for the teams, being shut out of certain groups. And I mean, we all learned those lessons.
Yeah, but take a step back and really think about it, right? How many kids did you know that were true loners? Like, everybody had a group. Even the kids that you said were loners had a group together as loners.
Yeah, in some
like
capacity.
Everybody found a team. They may have been, not on your team, but been on a different team. So people, we want that sense of belonging as human beings, human nature,
certainly,
right?
Certainly.
We're communal by nature. So that's I think a big part of it. But I think there really truly is, when people, go down that path of challenging the 2 sides, it makes them uncomfortable, because they may not feel like they fit in anymore. Like if you even take politics, right? Like, I don't agree with the Democrats and I don't agree with the Republicans. Where do I belong? What party do I belong to? Like, who do I vote for?
Just that statement, I'm with you, but just that statement, I don't believe in what the Democrats believe. I don't. The thing is, that's oversimplified, and that's what we're doing. Is like, there's so many issues,
right?
And there's just no way one human being can sit and say, I believe every single left position on every single thing in this earth, or vice versa.
Yeah, right.
It's just, I mean, if I find that person, I mean, they probably belong in a nutty farm, because it doesn't make any sense. There's no way you can be that. My point is, it's a little bit of everything. Yeah. You may lean, you have your leanings, great, but we have to be able to discern between rational thought and negotiation, and this is for me and this is not. Give here, take here. We're losing that.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe not with your family, but I think as we enter into the world, we conduct ourselves in a way where it's an absolute almost. It's all or nothing.
Yeah. Yes. And I think from a political side, I think the problem always becomes, and I think a lot of it is, I may take a person, they agree with certain policies on the left. they'll just say they agree with them all, and in reality, they're indifferent to probably half of them, but they don't want to say they agree with the other side. So they're just saying, and they don't want to say they're indifferent because they think that makes them not belong now. Like, oh, well, how could you not agree with? Because both sides are like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Republican or a Democrat and you agree with some of my things, not all of them, it's like, well, you're not a real Republican or you're not a real Democrat,
which is a crazy,
which is stupid.
So
it's
right.
so
When I hear
stupid.
that, it just gets at me.
It's like I have certain right philosophies, I have certain middle philosophies, and I probably have certain left philosophies. Like I can kind of navigate, because as life develops, your views develop, your perspectives change. That's okay.
Well, they should.
Right? Yes, they should. Yeah,
you should
exactly.
be. You got to be.
Correct.
Again, fundamental crap we learned as a child,
Yes,
right? It's like
absolutely
easy second level thinking.
Yes.
Not difficult.
No. It's definitely not.
But we're living in a world of absolutes. We bounced it around on the podcast a little bit. And this is where I was thinking earlier, like, right now in the media, the big thing for this week, it'll be something next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
As of today, they still don't have a balanced budget or a budget agreement. They can't even agree to raise the debt ceiling. So there's two. Math is hard. Math is hard.
Apparently so.
So I'm not an economist, and I did not do well in mathematics. So I'm just want to speak in generalities here. We have, to my understanding, balanced the budget 5 or 6 times in the past 50 years. The most recent year, 2001. It can be done.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I don't know.
Basic arithmetic. Get rid of the shit.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying you can sit down in one evening and hash it out, but it's amazing to me that you have all this brain trust of people, and they can't figure out that this path that we're on financially probably has a shelf life at some point. We're not there yet, I guess.
Yeah.
I would have thought we would have been there a long time ago, but
yeah. And what worries me is, and again, I don't know in detail enough about to really articulate it, but if we move to a digital currency, is that going to wipe the debt? Like, is that what they're relying on? That now we move to a new monetary system, worldwide, where we're not using, fiat currency. We're not, we're moving to a digital backed currency. Mm-hmm. And are they thinking that's going to now just allow these countries to wipe their debt clear?
Yeah.
And kind of get a reset, like this financial reset they keep talking about. And I've kind of started going down the rabbit holes, but like I said, I haven't been down enough to articulate it. But I think there's part of that is in the back of their minds, because you can't keep taking. It's just like a family, making $100,000 a year and spending $200,000 a year every year. Like eventually, you got to pay the piper,
right?
Like, and that's what's going to happen. But we keep printing money and keep getting in more and more debt, and just sit down on both sides and say, we waste a lot of fucking money. Mm-hmm. Like, the government wastes a ton of money on stupid shit. There's a lot of spending you can cut from everywhere. I'm sure, like, people always talk about the military. You could probably cut spending from the military too. I'm not saying like benefits or pay, but I'm saying there are probably like programs and projects that don't necessarily need to be funded right now until we can get a balanced budget.
The average person, I'm going to guess, considers it all funny money anyways. The bottom line is, I think the average folk, we can understand $1 million. $1 million now is not as like a fictitious number as it was decades ago. No. The average person can rationalize it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Whether they ever get $1 million or not, they can rationalize it.
Correct. Yep.
100 million, they can kind of like mentally work the math out there.
Yeah.
When you get to $1 billion, it's still funny money for people.
A lot of money.
So when you add a T on top of that,
yes,
and I guess that we just zone out.
Yeah.
Like, what's another trillion? It doesn't affect it. Does.
It does.
If you really sit and think about it. But in the day in, day out world that we have, it really doesn't affect whether or not I'm going to probably go to McDonald's and get my Diet Coke or not.
No, it'll start hurting when taxes start going up, because eventually you got to pay the money back. If they don't use a financial reset, but I don't know, because if we don't use a financial reset to wipe debt clear between countries, and we go into default or get close to going into default, and we have to pay back, where's that money coming from? Tax revenue. That's the revenue of the U.S. government.
Well, there's one philosophy. there is one idea in this country that we're going to print more. They have no fear of inflation.
Well,
They just
yeah,
print and print and print because that solves the immediate problem.
yeah, but you can't. But you need
Under that
smarter people, right?
philosophy,
But you need smarter people in the room to solve the bigger problem.
maybe.
I mean, you do.
Where are these people?
Well, I don't know. That's a great question. That's all. That's the $1 million question, right? I mean, the $100 million question. Like that's what we need to figure out because again, you can't keep kicking the can down the road. That's what they're doing. Like by raising the debt, so they just keep kicking the can down the road. Like balance the budget. Like figure out where the waste is and get rid of it. Like that's what we need to do. Like there's so much waste in the government.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think about how much money they spend on stupid shit, like eliminate it. Like that's what businesses do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a law firm. Like I'm not going to piss away money to piss away money. Like we look at everything we spend on. Is this a necessity? Is it needed?
Yeah, and the scary thing that I see too is that it's an overall feeling that people get that when they watch the government, and I think the pandemic accelerated this, but when they watch the government spend a huge amount of money to quote unquote bail out industries or here or whatever, it desensitizes the citizen to the actual value of not only the dollar but of the tax dollar.
Yeah.
Right. And then when businesses have to contract the cost cutting and all that stuff, and there's a human component there. Sometimes when you see that human component, all of a sudden they compare that inefficiency of that business now to the government just doing, in their eyes, doing everything. Well, the government can spend all this money and create this and create that. The government creates nothing but trouble.
That's exactly
in terms of being a creation of things and ideas. That's a device for the private sector.
Yeah.
Right. The government does not create anything. The government does not create jobs. Right. No, there's a lot of the way the government spends the money has created an illusion in society. I think that is kind of dangerous.
Yeah, it doesn't create jobs. It can deregulate industries that allow them to be more profitable, to create more jobs, but it doesn't create jobs. It creates politicians that are in the system that use the system for their own financial benefit, in my opinion.
No, because they're not creating revenue.
No. And most of these politicians haven't run a business.
They take revenue.
Yeah, they haven't run a business. They have no idea. I'd rather have a Congress full of business owners that have never been in politics. I bet you we'd sort out a lot of the problems really fast.
Yeah, 100%. That's I don't know. I don't know. I just know that if you look at the resumes for a lot of the Congress folks, there's some good resumes in there. There's some good quality, accomplished people.
Yeah.
And it seems like that you once in a while will see one or two that stand out that you say, well, they seem like they're really taking their job seriously. I would hope so. But damn it, they come and they go and they get absorbed by the system. And it seems like nothing really monumental happens to the good.
I agree. That's the unfortunate part. They get gobbled up by the system. Then the system turns them into what they are.
Yeah. I mean, it's really fascinating. It's a fascinating story about, but that personal philosophy thing again, my point is if you ask these folks, you just voted on this and this and this, and you're, every day it seems like there's crazier and crazier shit in the news. I mean, just like what's things that are now somewhat like normal.
What is normal anymore? Well, I mean, honestly, when you think about it,
it's, whether for me, the big one that just blew my mind completely was the defund the police thing.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
And I worked hard to understand how it came about and try to understand some of the bigger issues with police issues. I tried to get there, but the idea that that you had a problem in society, you already had a crime problem in some certain areas of the pockets of the country, and then the way you're going to address this rampant crime is you're going to defund or remove police resources. And that was somehow normalized in discussion. Like that rubbed my brain so hard in 2020 and 2021. But when it becomes normalized and you see educated people in positional powers that take that stand.
Yeah. Well, and they don't.
We're living in a cartoon, man.
Well, right. But and here's the thing, like they didn't articulate the position well, right? A lot of the defund the police was not necessarily defund the police. It was, we also need money for mental health
Yeah.
and for social work, which, okay, like I understand that, but then
There was
you
a
don't,
movement.
you don't call, right. I'm just saying, but then
And
you don't.
they called themselves defund the
No,
police.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying that was the movement. That's what they called it. But what, if you listen to in some of the areas where they were articulating what the movement meant, that was not it. They framed it wrong. They marketed
Certainly.
it wrong. Like, and that's the problem. It was sensationalized, right? Defund the police is, it sounds way more newsworthy and causes more controversy than we also need mental health and social workers in the system to help police. Like, that's what a lot of it was about, but no one gives a shit about that. No one, you hear on the news like, oh, okay, cool. When you hear defund the police, it's like people are like, yes, and people are like, fuck no. So it's sensationalized on both sides. It gets, the news is not news anymore. We know that.
Yeah, for sure.
News is selling advertising.
For sure.
That's all it is.
For sure.
So they will put any bullshit on there to get more clicks.
Yeah.
So they find however they can sensationalize anything and turn it into something that's newsworthy, that gets people to click or go to their website or tune in so they can sell more advertising. That's all it is. That's the unfortunate part. And we've normalized it. We've normalized, like, yeah, it's cool. Like, yeah, it makes sense to me. Because people don't want to think. Again, they don't want to think.
So I've said it before, and I'll throw this out to bounce this back at you. You know, I think that when we decided to turn our quote unquote current events or our news into entertainment was the beginning of the problem. And I go all the way back to 60 Minutes. It started in the 70s with the first quote unquote tabloid news show on CBS. And then 2020 came a little bit after that. A decade or so later, I think primetime NBC happened from there, or Dateline NBC, I should say. The point being that it ushered in a form of entertainment with news. And it really got exacerbated in the 90s, I think. Then, of course, you know, the more sedentary we became and so forth. But we have turned like the news into entertainment. So is it a reflection of just we're just out of creativity ourselves? Is this a reflection of how bad Hollywood is? They can't entertain us anymore. Is it
we don't have an attention span anymore to sit through a 2-hour movie, but we can sit through a 2-minute news clip. That's what it boils. I mean, think about it. We don't have the attention anymore, right? Because information is coming at us so fast. So who's going to sit through a 2-hour movie now?
Yeah.
But they'll sit through a 30-second clip on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok that sensationalizes something, and they can stick an ad in the middle of it before it or after it. Right. Because we got your attention. That 2 minutes, boom, we got it. Can we keep it there for 2 hours? Maybe not. I mean, it's a different, our attention spans have decreased substantially.
You think that's what it is?
Absolutely. That's a big part of it. 100%. I mean, I have a hard time sitting through a 2-hour movie sometimes. Plus I'm just tired. I just fall asleep, but it's, I mean, attention spans are different because your information is coming so fast. Your brain is bouncing around, and for the new, that's what it really boils down to. They want to get your quick attention to sell the ads.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I just think there's just so much all the time.
Yeah.
And
turn it off. That's what I say.
Yeah. I turn it off. And I purposely have to take time to get out, and whether it's walking, whether it's reading, whatever, just basically shut off electronics, because I am as guilty. I will find myself getting sucked into the void as fast as possible.
Yeah. Yes. I get sucked into TikTok. Wait on those rabbit holes.
Do you think about the before times? And I always say the before times are, pre-95.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where everything you did throughout the day was kind of real intentional.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
If you're working on a computer, it was for a specific reason.
Yes.
And you probably weren't able to reach out and connect to others.
No. If you were, it took like 10 minutes for it to connect to like the phone lines.
Yeah. So
when the
you
internet
were real
came
intentional
about.
with every movement of your day.
Yep.
I kind of long for that kind of experience again.
Yeah. I mean,
elements of it anyway.
But now it's like, now the world is different, right? I think we've adjusted now. Like,
have we?
I mean, I think sophisticated people have. You've adjusted, and I think it's given us more opportunity.
Yeah,
like
certainly
the technology and the speed of information. If you know how to utilize it and capitalize on it, it gives you so much more opportunity than we had 10 years ago.
But Yes, 100%, 100%. The first 10 years of the web, I would say from 95, let's just say 95 to 2005 was fantastic.
Yeah.
Before MySpace, before the social media, where everything was intentional there, where Google was a place you went if you were curious and you wanted to find out about something.
Yeah.
You needed an answer, you would go to Google. You
Or
went
Ask
there,
Jeeves.
but you went there, but you went there intentionally.
Yes, exactly.
It was an intentional thing. You weren't being berated with all kinds of things daily.
Yeah.
But
I think you can still be intentional if you choose to, right?
Yes, you absolutely can do anything.
I think people need to
go in the woods and be a hermit if you want to.
Well, but I think people should try and spend more time being more intentional in their actions and their thoughts.
And why don't we?
We just don't have the sophistication to do it.
Why?
If I knew that answer, I'd probably be a gazillionaire because I would have figured out one of the world's problems.
Were we better thinkers before 95?
No, I don't think so. I think we're way more intelligent of a species now, but I think we're also way more distracted of a species now. The people that are the most successful in the world are the people that can eliminate the noise. Like, think about the most successful people in business and anything. They've eliminated distractions, gotten laser focused on what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's, if you want to be successful in anything, if you can learn to eliminate distractions and walk into a room completely focused, or attack what you're doing with a complete, like, laser-like focus, you can be successful, because it's very few people in the world can do that right now. If you want, I love going to networking events and watching how distracted people get.
No, do tell.
I mean, but when you think about, like, you know, I can walk into a room and tell who's successful and who's not as successful by how they focus on the conversation, right? If you see somebody and they're engaged in that conversation and that's it, that person is probably pretty successful. But the people that are kind of looking at you and just like scared, they can't keep focused on something. They haven't figured out life yet.
It's funny because I used to say before the internet age, I used to say something similar. Like, when I would meet somebody of prominence, whether they were usually an entertainer, and I would meet them, they had a level of social affluence when they were talking with you, but they were also looking at checking out who else was in the room. A lot of musicians, I won't name any names, very famous musicians, when you meet them and they're in a social setting, they're not really engaged in that conversation. They're out seeing who else is in the room, because that's just how they, you know, that's their thing. I used to think that was a sign of affluence. No. But now today, that's what most people do.
Exactly. Yeah. Next time you go networking, just watch the room and look around and see who's completely engaged in the conversation and focused. And I guarantee you, if you ask that person what they do, they're probably more successful than most people in that room.
So are we really even, you know, when it's a face-to-face situation, are we really even talking with each other?
Well, I mean,
what are we doing? Like, are we just talking?
I think a lot of it is talking at each other. I think it's being engaged in a conversation to kill time until the next thing comes along. I mean, you can see it when you watch people talk. It's like they're waiting for the next person to walk over. It's like, I'm going to talk to you because there's nothing else to do right now. I don't really give a shit about you until this person walks over. Like, I try and always give people my attention. I can get distracted too, but you can watch a room and you can spot that very quickly.
I'm still surprised at networking events. You know, I'm just glad to see them in general, because we're all so damn in our own worlds. You know, I'm not surprised to hear you say when people actually do get together that their minds are scattered like that, but at least they're actually physically there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because, you know, I think, wasn't there networking events on Zoom during the pandemic?
Yeah,
you saw a screen of like 60 people, and you're all drinking.
We did that with a couple of my friends. Like, we would do like happy hours through this. I can't remember what the app was called. It was called House Party or something. And
there was an app.
There was an app, but it was kind of like you could play games on it with each other. So it was kind of like a way to get together when you couldn't get together. And it was actually, that was kind of cool, because it was like me and like 4 or 5 of my buddies would play like these stupid like trivia games on this app together, because you couldn't get together, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I hated Zoom. I hate Zoom calls now. I'd rather meet somebody face to face. I want to read their body language. I want to see them. I want to understand their mannerisms. It's hard to do that over Zoom. Plus, I don't know if you're wearing pants or not. So a lot of people just don't wear pants anymore. It's the truth. You know, that's all I'm saying, man.
I want to get off. Just gotta stop the world and just get off this cartoon.
Yeah, sure,
man.
Go be a hermit.
Well, this new format. What do you think?
Yeah, it was
We're gonna
fun, man.
have some fun with this.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
definitely
This was episode 0. So
Zero.
this is kind of like we haven't launched yet,
Yeah.
but we wanted to get out here and get our feet wet. Our
Yeah.
initial target date was right on the 1st of June.
Yeah.
But we've got some of the technology bugs to work through.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun.
This is gonna be fun.
We did tonight completely off topic, nothing planned.
No.
My bullet points didn't
No,
amount to
did
much.
not say anything on that. No.
Yeah, but
It's okay.
yeah, we're going to try to do this on a participatory basis as well too. We're going to look at maybe getting some feedback, whether it's from Facebook or YouTube, and yeah, we're gonna have some fun with it.
This
but
is
it's
fun,
how
man.
we see it, because it certainly is, and it's going to be live, and it's
Yeah.
going to, and as of now, it's going to be the only live series on the Eric McKenna Project podcast. Because I don't know, is this considered podcasting? What is this?
We'll call it live casting.
Live casting.
Just if that term is not a term, I just made it up. Trademark pending.
I appreciate it, buddy.
Of course, man. It's a pleasure as always.
Is anyone who out there, I see there's quite a few. Thank you so much for giving us your eyeballs for tonight.
Yes.
We really don't know exactly what was going on here,
Yeah.
but we are doing on Tuesday nights at 7:00. That's the
Yeah.
plan, anyways.
Yes.
And
Tune
I
in.
think from a technology standpoint, things kind of worked out here.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna refine the process.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
as always, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
Rocco. Friends, we're out.